Um, get me. So good afternoon, colleagues, and welcome to the UKZN-ECHO Outreach platform. I'm Sarila Ramklas, the manager of the ECHO Outreach for UKZN. And this platform is a collaboration amongst the School of Medicine, the KZN Department of Health, ECHO India, and the ECHO Institute at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. So this collaboration enables specialist faculty from the School of Medicine to exchange knowledge with healthcare workers within KZN and beyond to improve patient outcomes and quality of life. Today's session, titled A Dermatologist's Call, Skin Bleaching, a Dermatologist's Call to Action, a Growing Epidemic, is hosted by the Department of Dermatology. And the session will be led by Professor Ntosadlova and Dr. Ngobo. But before I hand over to Dr. Ngobo to present an overview of the session, allow me to just share points on video conferencing etiquette. So please ensure that your name is visible in the participant list on Zoom, on Zoom functionality. Keep your microphone on mute. And our facilitator.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarila, for welcoming us to do this second session with you on from dermatology, following the successful one on drug reactions. And I'll give a brief background why we've chosen this topic, which is really a burning one for us dermatologists, that we really need to do something across in our consulting rooms, and we see it on social media and on streets. But before I do that, I would like to introduce my panelists here, who need no introduction really. They're dedicated individuals that have done so much in the dermatology era. We have Professor Lova, our head of the department, who will actually lead us in terms of presenting the issues and challenges around this topic. And my colleague on the left here, Dr. Zamambo Mkize, all the way from Herikwala, and he drove all the way to be present in this session. Thank you so much. Yes, so skin bleaching, it's a problem. It's a big problem. The alarming rise of the use of these agents, whether used deliberately for the purpose of skin lightening, or sometimes, as we see in our practices, being the overuse of and even skin cancers, which is what we seem to be dealing with as well. And that's what has also prompted this topic to be on the open so that we discuss it. And we know beyond the clinical risk, there's actually deep rooted issues of social cultural pressures and the ideals of beauty. And we'll have Professor Lova unpack all of those for us. And I'll hand over now to Professor Lova, who will present. And then after her, Dr. Mkize will also continue to facilitate the session and the questions. I think before Professor Lova go through her presentation, we'll just show the highlights of what prompted us to talk about this, which is what we see in the clinics.
Okay, we'll be starting
Over to you, Prof.
Okay. This presentation. Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Ngobo, and thank you, Cyrilla, as a project manager, as well as thanks, Dr. Mkize, as a co-chairperson of this platform. And as you have heard, the challenges of skin bleaching, just snippets that the video that Dr. Ngobo has so kindly prepared for our talk. And it really means we can no longer sit back and be quiet. As dermatologists, we need to take the stand, we need to take the step forward and see what we can do about the challenge of skin bleaching. So may I request that we don't take pictures, because these are pictures that have been kindly shared by our patients so that we can teach and empower everybody else. If you need any pictures, let me know. We can share those with you. So, you know, just to define the skin of color before I go to my objectives, skin bleaching is an issue that actually affects skin of color. These are patients of background Hispanic, African Americans, Africans, Asian patients, and Middle East patients. These are the patients that tend to be affected by the issue of colorism as well as skin bleaching. So I'm hoping this afternoon to cover the following objectives. What is skin bleaching? What are some of the complications and strategy for advocacy? And of course, the involvement of regulators, because we cannot do this alone. We need to make sure that the regulators are also involved. And also I'm going to talk about the way forward and management of the skin bleaching syndrome, and then conclude and acknowledge later on. So what do we mean by skin bleaching, skin lightening, or creamer, or changing your skin color? Definitely, the definition is that it's a cosmetic process of using agents to lighten one's normal skin color by reducing the melanin concentration in the skin. Skin bleaching is actually not something peculiar to Africa only. It is a global phenomenon, and it affects people from Asia, Africa, and America. It is indeed a public health concern, which is practiced widely despite well-documented adverse effects. If we look at the prevalence of skin bleaching across Africa, it ranges from 25 to 80%. That is a very, very high prevalence. So this is the data showing the prevalence and the studies that have been conducted all over the world looking at the practice of skin bleaching in the different areas in the world. So if you move on, these are the studies that have also been published in Africa looking at the epidemiology as well as the prevalence of skin bleaching, and of course knowledge about skin bleaching among the populations in these various countries in Africa. If one zooms on to Nigeria and look at the prevalent studies in Nigeria, this is a list that you can see there, extremely high, and it shows that 40 to 84% of Nigerian women bleach their skin, and this is according to the WHO. So both males and females practice skin bleaching in Nigeria, but more females tend to do that. And of course, dermatologists and estheticians sometimes use skin bleaching agents to treat certain disorders of hyperpigmentation. However, the unsupervised and prolonged use of skin bleaching agents on healthy skin to achieve a lighter skin color does pose a lot of problems, both immediate and long term. So why then common skin lightening agents in Africa are so common? Why are they not banned? Why are they not controlled? So if you look at the studies that we conducted in South Africa, the prevalent studies, this was a study that was undertaken in one of the public hospitals. We looked at African and Indian women to see, and we looked at about 600 women who completed the questionnaire, and 33% reported using skin lining products, and 67% of them use these products for treatment of underlying skin condition. As you can see on the picture, the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, drug eruptions, and other inflammatory skin conditions like eczema. And the skin lightening prevalence was about 33% in these patients. And products were purchased from a variety of sources, and only 25% of them reported using sunscreen with their skin lightening products. And what was shocking also was that 90% of the population that we studied were not aware of the side effects of skin bleaching, which is where we really have to come in as dermatologists and educators. As I mentioned, people use skin bleaching agents for a variety of things. Some of it includes acanthosis nigricans. I think they call it here in South Africa, ikiwi, which occurs in the axilla, on the face, and sometimes in between the thighs. And this is purely related to being overweight and insulin resistance. And some of the legitimate indications for using skin lightening agents are patients, as I mentioned, patients with drug eruptions, patients with lichen planus pigmentosus, and a whole range of patients who have post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation to acne. We do want to mention, though, that post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, we do realize that acne is one of the top common conditions that we see, and PIH affects patients as much as the active inflammatory acne does. So the endpoint for treating acne in Black patients, that is the skin of color, is not just clearing the acne, but also treating the PIH, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which is as devastating as the active acne as well. And if one uses appropriate medication, we are able to achieve these good results with patients who get reliable and safe treatments. So now, this is a patient with steroid-induced acne, and you can see the number of comedones on the face and the cost implications actually, and the health burden of treating steroid-induced acne is enormous, because if you treat a patient with ordinary cost-effective antibiotics and topical agents, it would probably cost the patient about maybe 1,200 rands per 4 months treatment. But with the treatment of the pigmentation, the atrophy, and the comedones, which needs cautery and all of that, the treatment may go up to 5,000 rands. However, with the correct treatment, we are able to manage these patients, but it takes longer and it is much more cost effective. So, do we really need skincare? Yes, we do need skincare. Just like when you polish your shoes, you can actually get them looking nice and glowing. However, we want to say to patients, we don't want you to change your skin color, but we want your skin to glow to show that it is healthy. And many times patients may go to doctors who are not used to dealing with Black skin, and sometimes they use products that may be harsh or pills that can damage the skin. And this is a patient who had a chemical pill which was too potent for the skin and developed inflammation and post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So you wouldn't blame this patient when she's looking for something to treat the pigmentation. However, using evidence-based and scientifically proven products that are safe for the skin, we can actually be able to clear this patient condition with the appropriate treatment. So moving to skin bleaching agents, the common bleaching agents that we use, we are aware of, are hydroquinone, mercury, and potent topical corticosteroids, as well as resorcinol. We do have now newer skin bleaching agents, for example, IV glutathione and vitamin C, IV tranexamic acid, and phenolic peeling compounds. We do know that skin bleaching is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it is projected actually to grow about 8% annually from 2025 to 2030. And if you look in Africa, the estimated cost is about 3 billion, and in Asia, the skin whitening market goes up to $7.0 billion. So again, in South Africa, we undertook a study to analyze the top 40 skin lightening products that are used in the country. And some of them are really unlabeled products that patients get from pharmacists, from doctors, from street vendors, and from the markets. And the list on the right shows you the products that we analyzed, and we found dangerous products. Just to highlight a few out of those, for example, the product called Shelly is imported here and it contains mercury, and the one that's called Rico also contains mercury. And we know how toxic mercury can be, both to the kidneys and to the neurological, and of course, even in children. If pregnant women use these products, it affects the children as well. So these are the list of products that are sold by the street vendors. If you go to the market right now, you will see all these products, Gentle Magic, Movate, Blue Eyes, etc., as listed over there. So we then wanted to find out, where are these products coming from? Because in South Africa, we know that skin bleaching products are banned. However, there's lack of regulation and control. There's not much we can do. So 82% of them were locally produced, which was quite shocking, bearing in mind that we have all these regulations. And you can see that the list of products that we studied that were actually from South Africa was about 82%, and they contained all these derivatives, as you can see on the slide. So the government efforts to discourage bleaching remains being public health campaigns. The influencers and perceived benefits of having lighter skin appear to outweigh those actually known risks that we know about. Some do not realize they are bleaching their skin because of euphemisms and pervasive labelings like even skin tone, black and beautiful, smooth and beautiful. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing. So the pervasive labeling goes from toning, maintaining color, whitening, organic glow, dark spots corrector. All these actually influence patients to buy these products online or from illicit sellers. So there's a growing concern over the use of skin lightening creams, and some of them are labeled natural serums or natural organic products. And again, this is extremely misleading for the lay people and consumers who don't know what these mean. So what are some of the skin lightening reasons and drivers in African women? The reasons could be, as listed on the left thingy, beauty and aesthetics, peer and family pressure, media influence, self-esteem, addiction, because these products can be addictive as well. Marriageability and marrying rich is another issue. I do know that in some of the countries, if you are lighter in complexion, you've got more chances of getting married compared to if you are darker. So these are the drivers. Colonialism is really a multifactorial causes of skin bleaching. Socioeconomic advantage, neo-colonialism and globalization, the media, the pressure of the media and social media is really humongous. And of course, body dissatisfaction. There are a number of papers that have shown that some patients who bleach their skin, there's issues with low self-esteem and some psychological problems. So moving on to some of the adverse effects of skin lightening, what do we see in the clinics? What do the GPs see? What do the nurses see? So this is what we call the post-bleaching syndrome. On this picture, you can see patients with ochronosis, which is a skin condition that causes irreversible damage and hyperpigmentation of the skin. You can see right on top there, is ulceration of the skin. This patient used corticosteroid-containing products causing ulceration on the abdomen and all over the body. And this is a range of products that you see. I think in Nigeria, they call them banana fingers because they look like those bananas. Because on the knuckles, there's folding of the skin. So whatever products they are using cannot get in between the folds of the skin. So this ranges from mild to really severe and irreversible complications. It's interesting to also note that men have also been targeted as victims, or rather the people that can be influenced to use skin bleaching creams. It's always been about women, but these are some of the adverts that we see in some other countries like Nigeria and Senegal, where now there's a trend to seduce men to use skin bleaching creams. And again, I spoke about the impact of the media. If you look at that picture there, what does it tell us? It tells that man there is attracted to this woman who's light in complexion because of the complexion. And again, if you look, we know about the sunscreens, how in the past, Coppertone had this bronze picture of people who are sun tanning, but the regulations now are such that sunscreens are not supposed to show bronze brown women, because then psychologically it makes those who are opting for suntan to aim for that skin color. So what about the new kid on the block now? We've got steroid creams. They're much cheaper. They're easily available. You can get these creams for like 50 rands. And the good evidence-based skin lightening products are much more expensive. And of course, the glutathione injections that have become in vogue in terms of patients using this to try and lighten their skin. So what are we not doing right? What should we be doing? If you look on Google Scholar, you will see that it's about 152,000 results, just in 0.09 seconds, on skin bleaching. So the data is there, the papers are published, the research is there. So what are we missing really in terms of educating the consumers about skin bleaching? So we know that acne, again, is a very common skin problem, and people go on to Google, to Dr. Google, and they use all types of mixtures that are written, toothpaste, baking soda, vinegar, etc. And these are some of the misinformation that you are getting on social media. And the quality assessment, this was a study looking at the quality assessment of hydroquinone, mercury, and arsenic in skin lightening cosmetics marketed in Nigeria. And you can see the high percentage of patients there. So moving on to topical steroid abuse, which, as I mentioned, is the new kid on the block because it's cheap, it's cost-effective, and it's easily available. So now we are seeing all these problems. We're just talking to a colleague recently now that even in the endocrine department, they are seeing patients with the HPXA axis as one of suppression, as one of the complications of using topical steroids. And all that you see there are now the conditions that we are beginning to see. So ringworms are happening, bullous impetigo, and now sometimes patients make incorrect diagnosis and they give topical steroids. That's why we need this platform like ECHO, so we can educate our colleagues in the private practice and GP. This is a list of all the steroids, that we use, from potent to very mild. But what is alarming now is that people are using Dovate, which is the most potent topical steroid you can ever get, clobetasol. And imagine using this on the face, which has its own anatomical and physiological uniqueness in terms of the physiology. So the abuse of topical steroids are really wreaking havoc in our society. And unfortunately, some of the culprits are our own colleagues, the doctors, the GPs, the pharmacists. They are prescribing these drugs without a prescription. And we know also of some colleagues, GPs, where a patient does not even see a doctor. They just go to the receptionist and they buy the cream and they exit. This is really bad. Is it really how we want to make money out of the innocent patients? Is this what we were trained for? Is it what our ethics tell us? So we need to reflect and ask ourselves, why are we doing this, selling steroids to patients without prescriptions? It's a real problem and it's a challenge. So again, these are the complications that I've mentioned, and I'm showing them again. So having discussed now the issues, the compounds that we use, the complications, we now have to move on and be solution-driven. We've identified the problem, and then what are some of the solutions that we have to embark in? Then again, just to mention that with the increased use of topical steroids, we are now seeing extensive tinea corporis, which is becoming resistant to the usual antifungal drugs that we're using. So if you see a patient who thinks tinea corporis and the patient does not respond, you probably may have to put that patient three options. You may have to review what is the culture showing of the fungal infection. Secondly, you may have to treat the patient for longer than the usual 6 weeks so that you treat for tinea corporis, or you may even have to use a combination of antifungal treatment. So do think about that when you see a patient who's not responding to your usual antifungal treatment. And also, we want to advocate against the use of combined treatments, combination steroid and antifungal, because this confuses the whole thing. And I know some colleagues may be stuck and not sure whether this is eczema or this is fungal infection. So the widespread availability of corticosteroids and antifungal creams are also driving antifungal resistance. And these are the issues that we have to really deal with. And here you can see some patients with tinea incognito, meaning that the tinea is not that obvious. And these are some of pictures from my colleague from India who are seeing a lot of this problem in India as well. So you can see the video of that patient. Again, Tina Incognito. These are pictures acknowledge Dr. Mysore from India, because again, the issue of skin bleaching in India is like really very, very high. So prevention is better than cure. We need to start embarking on education and empower our patients to know that, the best skin color that you have is your natural skin color that you were born with. But again, the issue of skin bleaching is social, political, and psychological as well. So we cannot address it with just saying, stop this. We need to educate patients, and we need to give them solutions and offer solutions for them. So it is actually very scary to show you these pictures that now we are seeing patients developing squamous cell carcinoma. And these are pictures from a colleague of mine, Professor Lee from Senegal. And we've actually working on a publication. There's about 55 cases of squamous cell carcinoma that have been identified in Senegal. And the preliminary data actually shows that these patients have been using the skin bleaching products for more than 20 years. And it's a combination of steroids and hydroquinone. So this paper has been submitted for publication. I spoke about endocrine issues, growth plate disorders because of the systemic steroids. And again, if you go into the literature, there's a lot of publications that depict the complications of using mercury-containing products as well as using corticosteroids that are used for skin lightening agents. And the case report was reported of minimal change disease and membranous nephropathy due to the use of mercury-containing compounds. Now, this is even more saddening. I want to take a pause here and breathe and say, this is actually frightening. This is sad. This is tragic. We need to save our children, because there are now adverts that are targeting young children. I even remember sometime in India, there was a paper where a child as young as 12 years old, they were using skin bleaching for this child. Now, look at this. Fair child, natural skin glow. And these are products intended for children. And these pictures were shared by a colleague of mine from Nigeria. It is said we need to do something about this. So these are also some of the cases from Nigeria, where, as I mentioned to you, there's a very high prevalence of skin bleaching. So, Doctor, am I still okay? Or you want as I continue? Okay. So now we're moving on. We know what the problem. We can identify the clinical complications of skin bleaching. We sort of understand the psychosocial political issues of skin bleaching. Now we are faced with a problem. We have the patients with skin bleaching. What do we do? How do we intervene? It's not an easy approach. I found in my experience as a dermatologist is the most important is to counsel the patient, because most of them will be worried that once they stop the medication, the creams that they are using, they're going to get darker. And unfortunately, that is what it's going to end up to be, because once you stop the creams, that will take you back to your normal skin color. And of course, I always say to them, there will be a storm before the rainbow. So things will get worse before they will get better. I find that very, very crucial to advise patients, because then they know the acne will get worse, the pigmentation will get worse, the rosacea will get worse, the fungal infection, everything will get worse before it gets better. So in that way, they can psychologically prepare themselves to anticipate the worsening, because everyone will be asking them, what have you stopped using? What's wrong with your skin? So that's the approach to have. Be compassionate. Do not be judgmental to the patients. Don't shout the patients. Get to understand that. Remember the data I showed you that 95% of the patients didn't know the side effects of skin bleaching. There's a whole lot with social media now, influencers, and people being able to buy hydroquinone online and mercury containing products online, we have a big elephant in the room and challenge to address. So again, try and use very gentle products, because the products that are harsh will irritate the patient and they will make sure that she stops the treatment. Very gentle products, even aqueous cream as a moisturizer is the best because it's gentle and it's cost effective, and gentle cleansing products. Sunscreen and sun avoidance. Again, you try and use physical sunscreens, not chemical sunscreens, because chemical sunscreens may irritate the skin. And in terms of moisturizers, you also want to use moisturizing ointments, not so much the cream, because the cream, the preservative will also cause irritation, and treat infections if you see it, and counseling and counseling and counseling and counseling. So I also always say to patients, melanin is a blessing for our skin, and tanning for white patients is a sign of skin torture. So the patient on the left, by the way, is about 75 years old, and the patient on the right is about 65 years old. And you can see the wrinkling and photoaging of this patient because they suntan, they don't have the melanin that protects them. And remember, with just having natural dark skin, your SPF is between 15 and 20. That is just your natural sun protection factor. And there's a reason why in Africa we are dark, because it's hot, temperatures are high, and people in Europe, they need the sun. That's why they get vitamin deficiency and depression during summer, because there's no sunlight. But here in Africa, we need to make sure that we keep the melanin that we have and not remove it and destroy it. And as you can see there, those are the eight. Identify the problem. We know the complications. We know how to manage these patients. So what is the way forward? So lots of public awareness campaigns, educating consumers about safe product uses, recognizing adverse reactions, and reporting mechanisms through targeted campaigns and community outreach initiatives. Research and collaboration is also important so that you can document and show evidence for these complications that we are seeing with skin bleaching. As you can see, for the first time, we can now list skin bleaching as a cause of squamous cell carcinoma in Black patients. We know that we see it commonly in patients with albinism. We see it in some patients who have genodermatosis, but for the first time in history, we can now say skin bleaching can predispose to squamous cell carcinoma based on the data that we'll be publishing soon. My slide is not moving again. So we've also come up with sun protection advice for the South African population. A group of us from South Africa came up with these guidelines. So please get this out, and it's very useful. So we also advocate people to avoid products with these all listed, in the different countries. And then the ILDS, which is the International League of Dermatology Society, of which I'm a member representing Africa, has been so graceful in that we've got funding to start a global advocacy against skin bleaching. So this will be starting next year, and I happen to lead this team of global experts on skin bleaching. And the position statement was also released in April this year. And we also need to realize the role of regulators. As one of my colleagues was asking me, we cannot target just one aspect of it. We also need what we call cosmetovigilance, because then we know that we are fighting this problem from all angles. If our regulatory bodies set the safety standards for cosmetic manufacturers to comply with and are responsible for coordinating and enforcing them, then our battle will be half won. So we know in South Africa there's legislation on skin lightners, which has passed in 1990 and revised. However, unfortunately, it is not enforced. The legislation is there, the problem has been identified, but there is no enforcement of the regulations and legislation. So we need the government and the regulators to help us address this. And of course, capacity building in terms of also educating consumers and leveraging on technology, creating apps to show people what products are safe, working on this as well as what products are not safe to use and what side effects will they be seeing. And of course, the manufacturer's role as well, they need to stick to ethical production and say and make sure that they don't use pervasive language to get patients to buy their products. And our role as healthcare professionals is as listed there as well. And by doing this echo, it's just one of the attempts that we are doing to try and sensitize the consumers. The role of the media as well, because they can be influential. We also have to make sure that the issue of colorism, using white models or white influencers or light-skinned individuals, we need to address that, because young people see role models. They must also see themselves in these actors as well as role models. So it's a multi-sectoral approach that we need, collaboration between stakeholders as listed over there, and we have proposed strategies for addressing the epidemic. And it's something that we are really working on. As I mentioned, the International League of Dermatology Society, for the first time, will be taking great steps in addressing this issue on a global platform, and a call to action for everybody to be aware of this problem. And I'm so grateful to my colleagues here, Professor Fatima Lee from Senegal and Dr. Folagemi Cole Adefe from Nigeria, for sharing some of their pictures and information with me. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof, for that extensive cover on the topic. And it's very enlightening, and it really touches the issues and the need for this directed effort from all stakeholders to involve medical education, ensure community awareness, as well as regulatory control. We touch a lot on that. So I will hand over now to Dr. Mkhize, who will facilitate the conversation and the questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Well, thanks so much, Prof. D, for that fascinating and very necessary discussion on skin bleaching. And thanks, Dr. Samina, for allowing us this space. So, colleagues, we've heard the talk, and we are happy that you've joined us. Thank you so much. And we encourage you to post some questions on the chats. It could be a question, it could be a reflection, it could be a comment.
Okay.
You are also free to unmute yourself and actually say what you need to say. So, Prof. D, thank you. You showed some of the products that were in the supermarkets on the shelves there. and things like jet magic.
Yeah, carry on, yes.
Yes, and it is so sad that many people unknowingly use these products and they don't know that they are in fact skin bleaching. So I'm glad that you bring in regulatory bodies to actually tackle this problem. And how can we as dermatologists, especially our societies, especially the Society of Skin of Color, partner with such regulatory bodies like SAPA to actually advocate for the unsuspecting public?
Thanks, Dr. Mkhize, for your question. Interesting question. So, as you know, you mentioned that. Okay, yeah. As you mentioned that it's the problem, as you mentioned, is multifactorial. So when it's multifactorial, it also means addressing it has to be multiple approach. So as I mentioned, that I think for the last 3 years or 4 years, I've been raising this in the International League of Dermatology, which is a body that has about 350 societies of dermatology in the world. And finally, this year, we're given funding to actually work on a global approach to this. And one of the aims of this is to make sure that in each country, we'll be having a standard letterhead approach that will be addressed to SAPRA, to regulators and everybody. And we've chosen actually the top 5 countries because skin bleaching occurs globally and internationally. However, looking at the data, there are 5 countries where it's really, really prevalent. So we've chosen those countries. One of them is Africa and India, I think South America and Middle East. Those countries will be the first targets in terms of a pilot and what we need to do. So at least I'm happy to say that after a long time of trying to push for this, we're now getting to the action and implementation stage of it. We will need your support and everybody, and I'll be getting back to each one of you to see how we can contribute and be part of it.
That's certainly very encouraging. Thanks, Prof. So on the chat, I have a question. Can I ask, please? Please go ahead, Kofi. And also, there's a question from Dr. Mtsele. Have you seen any adverse effects caused by these IV glow drips?
Yeah.
Glow drips.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's an interesting question. We
Maybe to add on that question, because I had the same question, Prof.
Sure.
So the effects, obviously, but also what have you identified any ingredients in these glow drips?
Good question, Mambo. In fact, we are working with one of the students because there's no data to show what is in these IV glow. We know they say they've got glutathione, they've got vitamin C, antioxidants, but nobody knows. So because it's all illicit in the way it is done. So the next step of our research again now is to try maybe perhaps look at what do these IV glows contain. And secondly, in terms of side effects, patients that, I'm just quoting what's in the literature, patients that develop drug reactions, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and another patient, I think, developed pancreatitis from a neurological problems from glutathione. But there's not much data out there to say what do these products contain. So as we always say, we want to do research that's relevant to the people. That's one of the projects that we're working on right now to see who is using this. But remember also, there's some secrecy about this because people know that they are, not regularized. And also those who want a lighter skin, they're also embarrassed about the fact that they want to change their skin color. So when you ask patients, they don't disclose that much. You have to be persuasive. So hopefully the next time we have this echo, maybe in a year or 2, we'll have the results of what's in these IV glow drips.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Kofi, do you want to unmute and ask your question? Or you could.
Yes. Is it? Can you hear me, please?
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good. So thanks, Prof, for a wonderful presentation. I practice in Ghana, and I want to share a common trend here in Ghana. So in Ghana, especially with the atopic eczema caregivers or their parents, there's a practice where they now mix the steroid with their moisturizers. So a typical trend where, instead of they've been coming to us, we prescribe the steroids. We don't do more of the side effects. We don't talk more of the side effects, and they feel, instead of coming all the way to see the physician, why not I just buy it, and once the moment I apply, just like magic, it goes away. So now they mix it, so you can have a 3 or 4 year old coming with a very damaging striae. You ask them and they tell you, well, she uses maybe shea butter, but you go into details and you notice they actually mix it, and sometimes they call it organic. So that's another thing that we physicians, we need to do. We need to, encourage, or we need to empower our especially the caregivers, empower them with the side effects of some of these products. And secondly, as Prof said, counseling. I have so anytime I have cases of exogenous or chronosis, there are times where I need to even involve the clinical psychologist, because then most of these people, the mental, especially again here in Ghana, when you tell a woman that you've gone darker, it's as depressing as an insult to them. So it takes you being very close to them, you continue and empowering them, picturing the other side of beauty, painting the other side of beauty to them. And sometimes when you do it with a clinical psychologist, you really get good results. So thank you once again, Prof.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kofi. What you are saying, it's actually a lived experience as well. Because if I may recall, here in South Africa, there's something they used to call a drop, because they would take, I think it was Medrol, I can't remember the steroid, it was in a bottle, and then mix it and then start applying on the skin. So people come with all these different concoctions that they create. So what you are saying is very true. We need to really counsel them and not be judgmental and try and persuade them. But hopefully one day we will be able to circumvent this problem. And I see also we are, as part of this working group that I've spoken about with dermatologists from Africa, from India, South America, etc. We're also looking at creating an app that will contain all the banned products, and we'll keep updating them because the manufacturers are so devious. They will change the name of the product and just keep the same contents and the ingredients. So if it's, instead of calling it Even Bright or whatever, nice and soft, whatever, they'll come with another name and they will write natural products, natural serum, natural. We've seen all these tricks, but as one day, if a patient can sue one of these companies, get them to pay millions, then that will be the day when they will also learn that they have to declare, the correct ingredients. So it's a war that we have to fight, but we're not prepared to give up. We are going to continue. And as I said, it's psychological, it's social, it's political, it's colorism, and there's racism as well. We all come from a history of being colonized and associating beauty with whiteness. And our values of beauty are those of whiteness. So it's high time that we embrace really our natural skin, but it has to start from children. The education has to start from preschool, because that's where you plant the seed. And again, one of our initiatives is to make sure that we create education information that resonates with young people so that they can learn about these things from a young age.
Thank you, Prof. So we've got another question. Are there any acceptable agents we can prescribe or recommend to patients who are adamant about usage of brightening agents despite counseling? Especially in the GP practice, we get quite a few patients looking to get more even skin tone or to improve their blemishes.
Thanks, Dr. Mkisa. I'm sure you guys can also comment. That's a good question and very practical question. As I mentioned in my study that we did in South Africa, only 33% of the patients used skin lightening creams to change their skin color. About 67% of them use it to treat an underlying skin condition. And why is this important? We know that the disorders of pigmentation fall in the top 5 skin conditions that we see. Things like melasma, things like lichen planus pigmentosus, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation from acne and eczema. So there is a need to treat these patients, because if we don't treat them, they will resort to all these illicit creams that we're using. So what is out there? There's a lot of products that can be used, but of course, depending what skin condition you have, you can use retinoids, for example. Retinoids can be used, vitamin A, antioxidants with vitamin C can be used, sunscreen, broad spectrum sunscreen. And for pigmentation, there's enough evidence to show that physical sunscreens are much better, tinted sunscreens, and those that also protect against visible light are the best for disorders of pigmentation. Then we've got compounds like abutine, we've got licorice extract, we've got kojic acid, we also have niacinamide, but all of these, in terms of how they respond, it depends, can be aggressive, can be slow. We've got tranexamic acid. We also, of course, have hydroquinone, which is our benchmark for treating hyperpigmentation, but that has to be prescribed by the doctor, and it has to be monitored, and it must be used with a sunscreen for certain periods. We've just published guidelines on how to manage hyperpigmentation, and this was presented at the EADV conference in Paris, and there was like 10 of us from all over the world. So if you want those, I think we can ask Cyrilla to share those guidelines with you. And the beauty of this was also we accommodated countries from low and middle income countries, because there was representation from all over the world. So all these compounds are there. I cannot mention the trade names of the products, but I can only mention the generic, like the active ingredients, like I've mentioned. So you look for those products for your patients. But if you're not sure, you refer to your dermatologist, because your dermatologist will know what to prescribe for your patient.
No, thank you, Prof. There's another important comment. It's really an issue dating back to our mothers and aunts, and worse now, there's social media. TikTok in particular, they are selling 5 liters of creams, which are unlabeled for reselling. It's sad, really. And if I may ask, if I may add also, some of those are actually targeted for kids, those products. It's actually sad.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Mkhize. As you saw, in the presentation, that they are really targeting children, which is really, really worrying. So again, I think it's about education. I always say to patients, your skin is the most precious organ, and your face is your face to the world. You never use anything on your face if you don't know the ingredients. If something is sold and doesn't say what it contains, stay away from that. And companies that keep up with evidence and research will always make sure that they've got ingredients. But with proviso, I mentioned to you that sometimes they say it's natural products, it's natural serums, and yet it's not that. So the best thing is to get the advice from your doctor or from your dermatologist as to what are the effective products and safe products. But having said that, the challenge again for patients, which I can speak on behalf of patients, that some of these good products are very costly. They're extremely expensive and not affordable for our poor patients. And again, if you've got eczema or drug eruption all over the body, how are you going to use 50 grams to treat the whole body? So it's a challenge, and it's something that I think we need to think about and see how we can address those problems. But education is a cornerstone of making sure that patients embrace their natural skin. They know what to use. They know these side effects. And as I say, hopefully we may get to be able to address the lower hanging fruits in terms of education.
Well, thanks so much, Prof. And we also welcoming the positive comments on the chat as well. And I just want to invite my colleagues here on the panel, if they've got any questions they would like to pose or any comments.
Oh, yes. Yes, I mean, support, especially I like the point that was brought in by Kofi because that's what we also really get to see in our practice. There are a lot of use of patients. That were in my opening statement. I mentioned also deliberate use for bleaching, but also for overuse or maybe disuse, where maybe education may not have been given clearly to the patients, and we do see patients that develop these side effects. The concern is just about the timeline, brought in the issue of the social media. And I know a number of our colleagues, actually, the dermatologists who are on TikTok, they do try to bridge to the knowledge because there's really gaps in the knowledge out there. And that's the reason why people tend to use these products the way they do. So we need to support them because in their platform in terms of sending out good information. So we need to be firm about it. The concern is the products being out there because they're easily available in the retail, supermarkets. Patients are able to get these. We need to really do more work and maybe expedite this action that we need to take off because the problem is huge out there.
Sure. Thanks, Dr.
Okay, so thanks, Prof. Lauren. It was an amazing presentation, a real eye-opener. And I'm an advocate for primary health care, right? So, and I like the position you're taking about education. For me, I'm wondering how much of education is actually happening at community-based level. How are we talking directly to the community, not just to the patient? And what strategies are in place to actually engage primary healthcare practitioners, the primary healthcare clinics, the community healthcare workers as being the information sharing medium at community level. And I like the fact that you have had an advocacy campaign. It's wonderful. But really, we have to, for me, it's about prevention. So we're starting, and I hear that we're wanting to start at preschool level, where we're educating children at that level. But again, I think there's enough, there are plenty avenues for us to engage other education strategies. I'm not sure if that's in planning.
Sure. Thanks, Sarela. That's a very important comment that you are raising. First of all, as I mentioned that again, we're talking to the people now we've lost the boat in a way, but we want now for future to target young people. And the plan is to actually have this as part of life orientation in the schools, to incorporate skin and hair as part of life orientation. And we're trying to also make inroads with Department of Education so that we can have this incorporated. And in terms of the information, we'll be able to provide that. And again, with the advocacy, the global advocacy that I'm referring to, we have an expert in community education. This lady has got a PhD in how to convey the information to the community. I'm not an expert in that, but obviously So the task team has actually handpicked somebody who deals with how do we communicate and get and cascade the information down to the community.
Wow, that's just music to my ears.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Just the last point from myself. So I like the point that you're making about introducing this at schools, at basic level as life orientation skills or subjects. And just the other day at the clinic, I had two little girls who were sisters, and they're teasing each other about how dark the other one is. And I'm just wondering if we've actually listened to the people who've experienced colorism firsthand, and perhaps we need more focus groups to listen to those people and maybe have more studies, then we can broaden the discussion. And like you said, that it's a multifactorial problem which needs many facets of management. Thank you so much, Prof.
Yeah, thanks. If I can just comment on that, it's amazing that all of you are bringing up really fascinating points and questions, and also adding to the thoughts that we have about this advocacy. So with regards to that, the task team actually includes patients as well, okay, male and female.
both genders and children. So we'll be able to get firsthand the inputs from them as well. So that's why it's a really broad team, because in the past we go and toy and say stop skin bleaching, but we're focusing on that aspect. So now we have learned that there's 5 prongs to this. Let's deal with each one of them and see how to bring everything together. And hopefully it's just the tip of the iceberg, but hopefully we'll be able to do something about it. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you so much. I'm not seeing any more questions. Just lovely comments. Thanks everyone for engaging. Over to you.
Sorry, Dr. Mdoma. I would just like to alert our audience that there is a link to provide feedback on the session. It's in the chat. Please take 2 minutes just to click on the link and just complete the very short survey. Oh, what's happened to it? Okay. It's the echo.org feedback link, so that we'll have a better idea of what whether your expectations of the session have been met, and how then can we extend this conversation for future sessions. So we look forward to your comments. All right, Dr. Ngovo, closing comments on your side?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for those who've connected. Those interactive questions and comments really helping. And here you've heard it, colleagues. It's a growing epidemic. It's a cause for concern and a call for action. So we need to really work on this. And thank you all for participation. Until the next one, I think you're happy with the survey at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for joining.
Thanks very much. Thank you for the engaging questions.
So thank you very much, team. So it gives me this pleasure to thank the team from the Department of Dermatology at University of KwaZulu-Natal for presenting this very important topic, a growing epidemic, as we heard today, on skin bleaching, and call for action. And that's really, really strong advocacy there. So it becomes all of our responsibility to get involved and to prevent this scourge. Okay, so I would just, at this point, I'd just like to say thank you to the panel members, especially Prof. Lobo, for putting together such a comprehensive presentation. Really, thank you so much. To Dr. Ngovo for leading the team, and for Dr. Mkhize for facilitating the discussion. Thank you to our ECHO India team for the technical support, and to the College of Health Sciences IT support team, to the School of Medicine Administration, as well as to Prof. Lobo. Again, she has another hat that she wears here today. And Prof. Lobo was actually the founder of the ECHO platform for UKZN. So we're very grateful to her actually for providing us and for supporting this initiative. So we have a very broad reach, as you heard today, not just in South Africa or KZN, but across Africa. So thank you, Prof, for bringing this platform to us and enriching the lives of our academics and our patients. Okay, so just to say that the Department of Dermatology is hosting a session on the 12th of November. Yes, it is the 12th of November. Again, at this time, 2:30 to 3:30 South African Standard Time. And the topic is on
Albinism.
Albinism, yes, albinism. We have, I think we have a guest speaker that's an expert, a dermatologist in the area that will be part of the panel. And we will also have local experts joining that session. Please look out for our adverts, and we thank you for your feedback. And until next time, goodbye.